Can you all hear me? Okay, awesome. So, I know Samir is somewhere there. He keeps doing this, where he kind of pulls me and says, now you need to talk about technology, being a non-technologist to a bunch of technologists, right? So I'm going to try and do my best. I was thinking about it, and what was interesting is neither Samir, and obviously I wouldn't have partnered with Lalit, but we have common messages. Isn't that interesting? I think we are, at an inflection point, right? The sooner we acknowledge that, it's very important. I was thinking how to kind of approach this to a bunch of leaders who are very passionate about change, right? How many of you have seen the movie BlackBerry? Yeah? There's one defining moment in that movie, right? When Jobs inaugurates iPhone, right? BlackBerry was completely built on the keyboard. And, remember some of us used that mouse, which was in the shape of a ball, and of course the ball would fall off and you want it replaced, right? We've lived through those years. In one stroke, they went from the top, I would say, smartphone to nothing, right? Again, another example of that, I don't know how many of you have seen the AT&T ad of, I think it's about 1993 or 1994, where they spoke about the future. Anybody? If not, please do. It's on YouTube. In fact, it came up recently because everything that we do today, AT&T predicted in 1993, 1994, right? So then why couldn't they do it? There was one assumption that they made, right? At least that's what critics say. AT&T assumed that the power of data transfer will still be on manual cables. So they just expected their telecommunication business to expand exponentially because they thought, hey, listen, if I have to get VoIP, if I have to get, this kind of data that is going on, the cabling and the networking and my telecommunication is going to be there. One simple element that they all oversaw was that of wireless. Wireless came to, and suddenly, traditional telecommunication organizations had to completely rediscover ourselves. Now, why do I bring that as an example? Here I'm preaching to the choir. Last time, probably when we got together, we would have spoken about generative AI. All of us have benefited from generative AI. We now use ChatGPT extensively. We use Microsoft Pilot extensively. Fantastic. We've already moved away from generative AI to agentic AI, right? Within agentic AI also, we thought generative AI was with LLMs. Today, we are talking of small language models, right, that are being built with about 7 million parameters, in a matter of days. We used to say that, hey, to train an LLM, we need a lot of data. Now, what we are doing, we are using synthetic data, which means we are able to exponentially train the language models a lot faster to get there. So as we are looking at this, right, the moment we kind of go back and say, okay, let me find out what's happening, the time and the pace at which the technology is advancing is something which is very hard to catch up. There was a time when I'm sure many of the people who have done coding would say, we used GitHub for a very long time. Today, there's Claude, right? And then again, 25 to 30% of the code today is being generated by AI today. It's a fact. Now, will that become 70? Very likely, right? A lot of run activities that we do in our infrastructure activities used to be monitoring, incident management, incident response, your P1 severity incidents. Today, all that can be built into agents, which is called a self-healing kind of a methodology. So as we are going through this, right, I think there are a few examples. We know computers have already beaten humans at chess. They've beaten humans at poker. There was probably a contest between OpenAI and one of the coders earlier this month in Tokyo. And the coder narrowly won. They did better coding, right? But he himself acknowledged this is very short term, right? I got by this time, but I think it's going to be very close for me to do this again in the near future. So we are really looking at this technology advancing at a pace which is unfathomable. I think the curve reflects that. The kind of change it has taken for a number of years, now it's taking a matter of months, right? How do we keep up? And if I have to bring that down to our GCC world, right? And I started my GCC journey in 2001, and I was having a conversation earlier, right? Even today, I'm having the same conversations I had about 24 years ago. Why is that? Do we need a jobs moment? I don't think so. So when can we stop talking about cost arbitrage, right, labor, talent pool, and move more towards innovation? I don't think it's an option. I think it's imperative. And why do I say that? See, I'm going to kind of probably challenge all of you GCC leaders from a service provider vantage point of view, right? Whenever there is a challenge in the market, whenever we see that the market margins are pressurized, what happens? Our clients come to us and say, hey, you need to do a rate reduction. Now, if I were to only do a rate reduction, there would be no profitability. And I probably speak on behalf of all the service providers. So there's an innate culture in service providers to continue to drive optimization and efficiency to take care of these market uncertainties. Now, how can we get the same culture into our GCCs? I was having a conversation with a leader from Europe yesterday, right? And he said, Sailaja, every time we do the annual planning exercise, right, they want everything flat. Cost reduction of 5% to take care of your inflation of 5%. How many of you can resonate with that idea? Yeah, 5%? Exactly. And here we are talking about probably 70% of our operations is going to be disrupted. So this narrative needs to change. There is a, there's a tendency of, oh, my team and my team is very good. We absolutely want the knowledge workers. But the knowledge workers' job is going to shift dramatically because their job will be to design the agents. Their job will be to ensure that the agents function properly, give the business context, give the cultural context, and more importantly, reduce hallucination, right? I think the job is completely going to shift, right? This is great. And this is me standing here and I'm talking. So how do we make this shift, right, going from here to here? Nothing new. We've all come up with different phrases. We've said future of work, all those terminologies. Whichever way I try to look at this shift, there are three vectors on which we need to change, right? One is the work that we do. Let's accept that AI is there in every single element that we do. I want to kind of pause this, right? How many of you have those robotic floor cleaners? Anyone? Yeah? I think they boomed during pandemic, right? It is very easy for us to imagine automation and artificial intelligence when it is something tangible, physical, manufacturing, logistics, supply chain. It is so much more harder for us to envisage this in services, where we are doing services, because it is invisible, right? In a manufacturing, it's very easy. Oh, Amazon use bots in their logistics organization. But I think when we are looking at AI, it is going to sit in the background and drive a lot more. So one, everything that the work we do, how can we drive AI orchestration, agentification, multi-agent ecosystem that is going to come in and drive what we are doing? I think that's very much here and there. Second one, AI-enabled workforce. And I'm very passionate about it because I believe in equitable AI. So there are those of us who are very good at keeping up with the technology, right? Oh, I know GitHub was there, Claude has come. Oh, we have this thing like Mashable. Oh, so-and-so Palantir has just come up with an FDE. Great. But what does that mean to the majority of people who are not in that space? And this is where, to me, ensuring your talent is upgraded, ensuring that your people have access to all the tools to be able to learn AI, I think is very important. I'm going to talk about a vibe coding that we've done. Third one is workplace, right? We are seeing this when we speak to some of our real estate colleagues. Gone are the days where 70% of the desk space used to be for production. Today, it's for collaboration, for mind share, for us to sit and do design thinking, for us to come up with new innovation ideas. It's no more about production. So this remote work is going to continue. So how you design your space, how do you design the space that you're working in is going to become very important. What does it mean to leaders here? And this is my favorite topic. Please ensure that you act with speed. It is here, it is now, it's today. How can we make that? You have to become talent magnets. We do not want people who are complicit or complacent. You want people who would actually want to drive change. So how exactly are you attracting the talent? And what is the kind of innovation fabric that you're enabling? What is the tone you're setting at the top? What is the tone that you're setting so that there is grounds up innovation that is happening in your organization? Do you have the tools? Do you have programs? Do you have incentive mechanisms? Do you have the culture to drive innovation? My time's up, so I'm going to take a couple of more minutes. How do we foster? I keep getting this, right? We want to drive innovation. Fantastic. That's a nice tagline, right? How? It can't be done in isolation. It cannot be done just by GCCs. It has to be done with a clear framework of ensuring that risk and failure are part of innovation, right? All of us know Edison failed like I think a zillion times before he came up with a bulb, right? But if we cannot tolerate risk and failure, we're not going to get there. Feedback loop is important with our staff, with our end product tuners, so that we can innovate better. Secondments are going to be there, right? Because we need the culture and the principles of the, I would say parent organization to start trickling down into the GCCs. Alignment with HQ is important. No point in we innovating in an area where we do not have any kind of a future. And of course, one thing that I would strive with all of you is to say, please ask for autonomy. One point I want to leave here, and then I'm going to walk off the stage. 250,000 people in our organization were exposed to something called vibe coding. And why did we do that? Because we wanted them to appreciate that this AI-based coding is real, it's here, it's now, right? So suddenly, it's equitable AI. Everybody has access to these tools. Everybody is able to experiment with it. Everybody is able to see how this has come to life. So I think my last message to all of you is we are no more talking about cost. We are no more talking about scale. We are no more talking about this is coming. I think this is here. This is now. How do you want to embrace agentification and AI in your GCC journey? Yeah, thank you.